I'm Benjamin Hall, and I'm searching for heroes. Well, thank you for joining us today. We've got a special episode today, and that's because we have two guests on at the moment, husband and wife, Robyn and Mike, and they are just the perfect prime example of a couple who have gone through something really difficult, life-changing, but together they have gotten through it. In 2018, Mike had a terrible car accident, and he was badly injured, unable to walk, traumatic brain injury from head to toe. He couldn't speak. And over the last few years, Robyn has been alongside him as he learned how to walk again, as he learned how to talk again, as he learned how to live his life again. And so today we are going to hear from both of them talking. It does take Mike a few seconds to respond sometimes, but what is amazing is to hear him saying these few words, and you can see in their faces as I did this interview, the pride which Robyn has that Mike is talking again, saying words. They were told at the beginning that he would never speak. There was a 1% chance of him even surviving. And so this really is an incredible story, both about how the two of them got through it, and they will talk about that, but also about the community around them that got through it as well. So it's a great pleasure to have this incredible couple on today. And thank you again for joining us.
It was July 12th, 2018, and Mike was actually in Bismarck, North Dakota, which is about 100 miles south of us, straight south on State Highway, and was at a work conference. And his work conference ended, and he was on his drive back from Bismarck to Minot, and got distracted, as we all do. Everybody always said, well, were you mad that it was a distracted driving situation? I said, tell me one time that you've driven and you haven't looked down to grab your coffee or looked away. You know, and like everybody does it, and maybe sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. So no, it doesn't matter that it was that. It is what it is. But ended up coming upon a vehicle, a truck that hauls lumber. So not a semi, but a truck that had a lumber trailer on it, and was distracted. And when he looked up at it was breaking down or broken down, and swerved to try to miss it, didn't miss it, and was actually driving our pickup and clipped the back of it at about, I think they determined that, and I don't know kilometers per hour, I only know miles per hour, but at about 60 miles per hour, and it tore off the cab of the pickup, the whole entire side of the pickup, and spun him around. And he was very, very severely injured at that time. And he was life flighted from his accident via helicopter back to Bismarck to Sanford in Bismarck, and had very, very life-threatening injuries, with the major one being traumatic brain injury. And he had surgery to remove part of his skull. They put his skull on his tummy, which I thought was really interesting, to allow for the brain to swell. He had open fracture in his shoulder. A little piece of his shoulder is still back on the highway somewhere. We won't look for that. They can keep it. And multiple rib fractures, and then some fractures on his spinous process. So he was in really, really rough shape.
Wow. Mike, what's like the first memory that you have then after the accident?
I don't have anything.
Yeah.
Do you remember the time when you came to, or was there a time when you realized how injured you were or what the future might hold?
I woke up and I had blood on me.
Huh. Wow. And then I suppose, Robyn, how did you feel at this point? Because you must immediately have known that you were, as you said, at the beginning of a journey.
Yeah.
How did it feel at the beginning?
That's only the second time he's ever said that he remembered anything about the accident. One time in his recovery that he has said that I asked him, he said he remembered being wet and being in the windshield. And it was actually the windshield was on him. And I think the wetness was blood. So that's only the second time since 2018 that he's remembered anything.
That's amazing.
About, I know. Yeah.
Do you, are there always new things popping up? Do you occasionally see things, or Mike, do you say some things? Does that still happen, that he says new things all the time? It's improving?
Every day, right? He gets so embarrassed. He gets so embarrassed about it.
Wow.
But to answer your question about how I felt, I didn't know Mike was injured until he was already out of surgery, because I was at work, and we were actually we were opening a new facility, and I was hauling equipment with some of my staff, some of my fellow coworkers, and I had been getting these random phone calls that were from odd numbers, and I didn't need an extended car warranty, so I didn't answer them, because that's what you think they're going to be, right? So I didn't know until my sister-in-law called me, because there was an angel on a Harley Davidson that stopped at Mike's accident. And he made it his mission to figure out who should be there with Mike, and went on Facebook and made the connection between Mike and his sister Allie because of mutual friends that they had. So he got a hold of her because he was driving the pickup, which was in my name. But I didn't answer the phone. So by the time I found out, Mike was actually already out of surgery. So he was in the ICU already.
And I guess, you'll be grateful for that, because the doctors did
Absolutely.
what they had to do straight away without waiting. It's interesting that you say an angel. I think I felt the same way, when I was injured, that a couple of things happened which I can't quite explain. People who went out of their way just to help me. And it gave me so much gratitude for community and people around. And I guess you must have felt that as well.
Oh, people that you don't even know, from the start of the person who responded to Mike's accident in North Dakota, a lot of the emergency services are volunteer services. And in the area where he was injured, they are volunteer. That's amazing that these people volunteer your time. But what the downside of that is the time it takes for those volunteers to go to where they need to get the ambulance and get everything going and get to where he was injured can be 20 minutes, half an hour. A person that was on the volunteer ambulance in Washburn, which is where his accident was nearby, left from her home directly to where Mike was hurt because she knew she was closer. She didn't know him. She wasn't even expected to go. But had she not gone and said, hey, this is really bad, we're going to need life flight. I mean, all the things just fell into place. And a very good friend of ours just said, this is a God thing. This is a God thing why he's alive, and why these people did what they did to even give him a chance to survive.
Wow. And then, of course, the recovery and the therapy, I mean, that went on for a long time. And Mike, you have had to learn to do almost everything again. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you remember what, for example, do you think was perhaps the hardest?
Walking.
Yeah. How is your walking at the moment?
Pretty good.
It's getting better, right?
Yeah.
You're with a walker, and sometimes it's frustrating, right? I think overcoming that frustration when your body doesn't do what your brain is telling your body to do and it doesn't listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mike, how do you deal with that? Because I know that frustration. Like there were times when I couldn't move, when I needed to be doing more and I couldn't do them. How did you get through like those frustrated moments when you're not able to do something? How do they feel, and how do you get through them? Is it hard work?
Yeah. Very hard work.
Yeah. What motivates you to get through it?
You?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. That's so true as well. Family. You're absolutely right. Mike, I felt the same way. My wife was there for me the whole time. And Robyn, I suppose that raises a question for you, which is, this has been, we know how difficult it has been for Mike, but many people don't always appreciate how difficult it is for those around them, the people who have to really care for them and get through them. And I wondered if you could talk to us about what that's been like for you.
Well, it's a journey of hope, faith, hopelessness, tears, laughter, really leaning on the people that are in your life, that are there for you. My sister, she drove me down to Bismarck there, and I was in Bismarck from July 12th, or I was with Mike from July 12th, from the time he was injured. And I didn't come back to Minot until August 13th, I think. because the people in my life, my sister, one of my best friends, Vanessa, my other friend, Lainey, my mom and dad, they made sure everything was taken care of at my house. And my coworkers, where I worked for the local hospital here, my coworkers made sure everything was taken care of at work. My focus was on Mike and his recovery and what we were going to do. He was given a 1% chance of survival that day. And I didn't know that. My sister heard that. And we didn't know which way this was going to go. You know, there were multiple times when I thought I lost him. But it's a mental turmoil, emotional mental turmoil, physically exhausting. And you just run on adrenaline, literally run on adrenaline. And just, first it was survive the minute, then it's survive the hour, survive the day, you know, and just what's next and what are we going to do about it? You just had to go in expecting the unexpected. And then just when you hear that information, you can't freak out about it because it does no good. So you hear it, you evaluate it, and you go, okay, so what are we going to do about that? And you had to go in with that mentality or you're not going to survive. That's how I did it.
More of our conversation right after this. What is it like? Because he had to learn how to talk again. What is it like to go through that process?
It's awkward.
Awkward. Why was it awkward?
I think it's like, and you can tell that I think right now it's finding the words, you have them in your head, right? Mm-hmm. And then making that connection from those words in your brain and being able to say them. That's where he struggles a little bit. Yeah.
I suppose, Robyn, what do you find most difficult at this moment? What is the hardest thing right now?
When something that I know he wants to do, so that would used to be so effortless, and now is just a challenge, you know, or things that I know that he would love to do but can't. But we do a lot of those things we used to do. They just look different, you know, and that's awesome. My dad had found this wheelchair that was an older metal wheelchair, you know, that they just don't make those anymore. And I actually took it to a bicycle shop here called Valcyclerly, and I know the gentleman that owns it. And I said, hey, can you turn this into an all-terrain chair? So they took this old wheelchair and they built specific tires for it so that we can do whatever we want outside for the most part, as long as we can get the chair somewhere, because it runs over anything. Because a normal chair, a pebble will stop that, you know, but that's how we're able to do so much.
Yeah. Mike, is there something that you would really still like to learn to do?
Fish.
Well, you already know how to do that. Right. How about catch instead of just fishing?
Yeah, I feel you there. I'd like to do that as well.
Yeah. Master that rock wall, right?
Yeah, master rock wall.
Because he's been climbing the rock wall at the YMCA. He climbs the rock wall there.
Wow!
And hasn't made it to the top yet.
Is that, Mike? Is that with all four, your both arms and legs, you're able to climb?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible considering the injuries. You must have thought at the beginning that maybe that wouldn't be possible.
No.
Wow. I didn't think at the beginning that we'd even be here. So, you know, the fact that he's home with me, and that we, you know, and I'm sure this is what you experienced with your accidents, you know, with your situation, where you look at it and go, what's my future? Is there going to be one? And that day that he was injured, I just remember, you know, I think some people get angry right away. And for me, I was like, God, I'm like, please take him or give him back. I don't want this for him. I want him to either, you know, go be with the family that are already in heaven, or give him back to me so we can have a life that we can enjoy. And here we are, taking advantage of everything we can in life.
Yeah. Mike, how do you think, in which ways has Robyn helped you through this?
She's an angel.
He tells me that on the regular.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit, Mike, about your wedding? Because I know you guys got married after the accident.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Pretty good.
Because we got married when you were in Madonna, didn't we? Who married us?
Your sister.
My sister. And there's a little story about that. My sister and Mike, let's just say they might have butted heads a little bit before the accident. They just didn't agree all the time, and that's okay. But when Mike was in his coma, my sister didn't tell me this until obviously later. She promised him if he would come back to me that she would marry us. She made him that promise in the hospital. So, yeah, we had a small ceremony in December 2nd, and then we had a wedding blessing ceremony in May when Mike came home from the rehabilitation centers in 2019.
What kind of therapy are you still doing? Like, that obviously continues.
Walking. Well, where do you do that at?
Why?
Yeah, personal training now, right?
Yeah, personal training.
Yeah.
And he works with an amazing, who is your personal trainer that you work with right now?
Chris.
I already know.
Chris Douglas.
And what's special about Chris? What team does he belong to?
Sled hockey.
He's a member of the USA sled hockey team.
Wow. Amazing.
So he kicks his butt, and and he's had great therapists, great occupational therapists, speech therapy, and great personal trainers, and they all have challenged him in different ways. But Chris probably, Mike was a former wrestler, and I feel like I have done sports medicine all my life, and I feel like the mentality of a wrestler and a hockey player are very, very similar. So able to bring out that tenacity, we'll say, in someone who might need a little kick in the pants.
Mike, what would you say to somebody who is going through something difficult? How would you tell them to keep going?
Just keep going.
Do you remember what Coach Berwick said to you?
Michael.
Michael. Coach Berwick is Mike's high school wrestling coach and a person that he's always admired and deeply admired. And when he was struggling, I called Coach Berwick to talk to Mike and kind of do, if he could inspire him a little bit. And the one thing that stuck with me and stuck with you, he said, every day give
1%.
1% more.
1% more.
Yeah.
I think giving 100% more each day is not logical. But everybody can give 1% more.
I was at Walter Reed just yesterday, and I was speaking to some people who had been injured, and that's what they said to me as well. 1%
Really?
more. Yeah, exactly the same. It really drove them as well. Amazing. Robyn, what would you say to someone who was going through something and was in your position, who was with someone who had gone through an accident?
I think in the beginning, and I think, how long are you in shock over a situation like this? You don't really know. And I thought I could handle it all, right? Let me do this for you, Robyn. Nope, I got it. Let me do this for you, Robyn. Nope, I got it. And then my friend Vanessa had said to me, every time you tell these people no, you're hurting them because they don't know how else to help. And you're overwhelmed. You need to let them. And it was kind of, I always say, she's that friend that gave me that verbal smack in the face to let people help me. And it was some of the wisest words I ever heard, because I was trying to do too much and taking on too much, and allowing people to help me allowed me to focus more on what Mike needed and not those external things that you think are so important at the time, but they don't matter. So I'm going to say, let people help you. And sometimes it's difficult to swallow our pride and allow that to happen. But you just have to. And it might be and they might not do it how you would do it, but that's okay. It gets done. And then you can focus on, prioritize those things that are important in the recovery of that person and your own health. Make sure you don't forget about your own health. You can't do this on your own.
You're listening to Searching for Heroes with Benjamin Hall. We'll be right back. Did you find that how did people in the community where you live interact with you afterwards? Most of them are there to totally support you, but I think sometimes you get totally different reactions from people.
Well, Mike was a wrestling coach in a nearby community called Stanley, and I had been working at Trinity Sports Medicine for 20 years, taking care of all these different teams and athletes. The community support was astronomical. the amount of fundraisers that were done out there, the amount of letters that Mike got, and I think that was, you were talking about in the video we watched on your situation, the letters that you received and the inspiration and the prayers. There was a small church group there's a place called Lake Metagoshi, the church up there. All the little ones in their Sunday school drew him pictures, and we hung them up on his wall in his room and sent him a teddy bear. And my hockey team that I worked with signed a jersey and sent it to him, the community support. And I'm actually getting chills just thinking about it, and I'm getting goosebumps because it was every day, piles of cards and piles of letters just inspiring him and inspiring us to just keep going.
What does the future look like now?
Future looks really good.
Yes, it does. Really good.
Well, Mike, you have such a smile on your face as well. I can tell that you are just a really happy man as well.
Yes, I am. I'm my angel. Just do.
Yeah. We, every day there's something new that's good, and maybe something new that's bad. And how that day is going to go is going to depend on how you react to that moment.
Yeah,
for sure. Everybody's going to have those days where you're down. You just can't live there. Yep. You have to, experience that day and then move on to the next day and do that 1% thing and move on. Right.
Yeah. Is there anything else that from your story and from what you've gone through, that you think is sort of just really significant, that has changed in a long way, that surprised you, or that you think people should hear?
I think for us, some of the moments that have been very impactful since the accident and in Mike's recovery, we have had the amazing opportunity to go back and meet I met the first responders that helped Mike. We were able to go to the ICU and see one of the nurses I didn't like her in the beginning because she tried to kick me out of the room once. But then one night when I was just sobbing, she came behind me and just hugged me forever, and I just loved her after that, of course. But you're in that moment where you're trying to decide that, but being able to see those people that helped in the beginning, for them to be able to meet Mike or meet me and know how that outcome came, give back to those people. They don't get that moment. They wrap him with a pretty bow, sent him in a helicopter, and then they're like, wow, I don't think he's going to make it. And for him to, he walks in his wheelchair. So he doesn't have to be pushed, but walks in his wheelchair. And to see that grin that you saw walking towards you when before you didn't know if that person was ever going to open their eyes again, I think that's so important for everybody's healing. I can't imagine how those people feel on a daily, working with people that you don't know who are going to survive or not. And it's healing for both parties because there's just a lot of emotion there because you don't know who they are. We've had multiple opportunities and we have snagged every single one of them and just be grateful for every moment of every day. We almost didn't go camping the weekend before Mike was hurt. Because we had been camping for the 4th of July, and he said, let's go camping this weekend. And I was like, oh man, the house is a mess. The lawn needs mowing. We have A, B, C, D, all these things to do. And I'm like, I don't know. And it was actually a weekend that Mike's son was going to spend with us. And I went, that's just silly. So I said, why don't you and Austin go and get the camper and camp together Friday, and I'll come and join you that Saturday. And we had just given Austin a bike for his birthday, hadn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went camping and we went hiking, and Austin rode his bike, and we had this fantastic weekend. And what if I had said no because the house was dirty and not spent that most important last weekend of normalcy doing those things with his son? We would have missed out on a great opportunity to do that. So take care of those people that are in your lives and spend time with them, because tomorrow isn't promised. We have to appreciate those people every single day, not just on Mother's Day. Your mom calls, don't ignore that call. Answer it. Even if you go, Mom, hi, I love you, but I don't have time to talk right now, because it might be the last time you hear her voice. Yeah.
Well, look, Robyn and Mike, I can't thank you enough for sitting down and talking to me and telling your story. And, thank you for coming on. You really are perfect example of a couple who have gone through the worst, and you've done so by doing it side by side and together. So thank you. I really appreciate you talking to me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're happy to do it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yep. And thank you for giving people like us a platform to share with others. I think that it's really important for people who go through things like what we've experienced to get that out there so that others know they're not alone. And everybody has different struggles that are very similar. And I think it's very, very helpful to be able to talk about them.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much. And hey, maybe one day we get to meet in person.
That would be fantastic. We would love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today and for listening to that. And look, I will say that I was looking straight at Robyn and Mike as we did this interview, and just the smile on Mike's face, the looks between them, you just get this sense and this reminder of how together we can do anything. And it may require sacrifices on one side, but true love, true community doesn't mind. It does that. So, look, a great pleasure to talk to both of them today. And again, reach out to those around you. Pick up the phone. Robyn and Mike have been together so close this whole time, and I think they send a message that the rest of us must do the same. Thank you very much. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcasts Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.